Have you ever heard of a terrifying encounter so real, it'll make you question what's lurking in the shadows? In tonight's story, we dive into chilling true account of two siblings, magkapatid na mangangalakal, who find themselves trapped in an unimaginable nightmare. Working the streets late one evening, these siblings never imagined that their simple task of collecting scraps would lead them straight into the heart of an ancient Filipino legend. As they went about their usual routine, something felt off that night. An unsettling silence settled over the streets. Little did they know, they were being watched. With every step they took, the shadows seemed to grow darker, more menacing. What began as a quiet night quickly spiraled into a horrifying confrontation with an aswang, a creature from Filipino folklore, known for its terrifying powers. But it wasn't just any aswang. This one had a strange, almost personal connection to the siblings. How did this creature know them? And what did it want? As the night wore on, the siblings were faced with a decision that would change their lives forever. But did they escape? Or did they fall prey to something far worse? Stay tuned for the next part of the story, where the terror reaches its peak. As the night grew colder, the siblings tried to brush off the strange feeling that hung in the air. They'd seen their fair share of oddities while working late into the evening, but nothing like this. The streets, usually busy with vendors and people coming home from work, were eerily deserted. Their footsteps echoed through the empty alleyways, a constant reminder that they were not alone. The older brother, Manuel, had always been the more level-headed of the two. He tried to keep his younger sister, Rosa, calm as they continued their rounds. But Rosa couldn't shake the feeling that someone, was following them. She turned to Manuel, her eyes wide with fear, and whispered, "Kuya, may tao ba sa likod natin?" Manuel glanced behind them. Nothing. Just the distant glow of street lamps casting long shadows. But then, as they walked past a narrow, dark alley, they both heard it, a soft, almost inaudible whisper, coming from deep within the shadows. "Tulong," it murmured. Before they could react, the air grew colder, and Rosa's heart pounded in her chest. They weren't alone anymore. The whisper faded, but the unsettling feeling remained, wrapping around them like cold fog. Rosa's grip tightened on her brother's arm as she looked around, desperately trying to find the source of the eerie voice. The dark alley ahead seemed to stretch endlessly, as though it was pulling them in. Manuel, ever the protector, tried to reassure her with a smile, though his own fear was beginning to gnaw at him. "Wala yan, Rosa." "Siguro hangin lang," he said, but his voice betrayed him. It was too shaky, too unsure. They kept walking, but every step felt heavier. Suddenly, they heard footsteps, soft but unmistakable, behind them. Rosa froze, her heart racing. "Kuya, may sumusunod na sa atin," she whispered urgently, her voice barely audible. Manuel spun around, his breath catching in his throat. Again, nothing. Just the empty street behind them. He started to question himself. Was it just their imagination, or was something truly out there, stalking them? But then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw someone darting between the shadows. It was quick, too quick to be human, and the way it moved felt wrong, unnatural. Rosa gasped when she noticed it too. The creature wasn't just following them, it was waiting for the right moment to strike. The siblings had unknowingly stepped into a nightmare far darker than they could have ever imagined. The silence that followed was suffocating, the air thick with tension. The siblings stood frozen, their senses heightened, waiting for the next movement, the next sound. It was as though the world itself held its breath. Rosa's hand trembled as she reached for her brother, her voice barely whisper. "Kuya, I'm scared." Manuel's heart raced in his chest, but he tried to keep his voice steady. "We need to keep moving. Don't look back. Whatever it is, we can't let it see our fear." But fear was already seeping into his bones, too. Every rustling in the dark felt like the creature's breath on the back of his neck. The shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally, closing in around them. The faint whispering sound grew louder, now unmistakable, a low, guttural murmur that seemed to come from all around them. "Stop," Manuel urged, halting in his tracks. His eyes darted to the alleyways, looking for any sign of movement. But everything was still, too still. And then, from the darkness, a figure stepped forward. It wasn't human. Not anymore. The aswang had found them. The aswang loomed in the shadows, its form distorted and unnatural. Its pale, gaunt face emerged from the darkness, its eyes glowing faintly in the night. A low growl rumbled from deep within its throat, sending a shiver down their spines. But before either sibling could react, something even more terrifying happened. Another figure emerged from the alley, the same eerie, otherworldly presence, but this time, it was familiar. It was their mother, standing in the middle of the street, her eyes glazed over and empty. Manuel's heart skipped a beat as he called out to her, "Nanay. What's wrong?" But their mother didn't respond. She simply stood there, unmoving, staring at them with an unnatural, chilling expression. The aswang in the shadows seemed to stir, as if it was waiting for something. Rosa's breath hitched. "Kuya. Nanay isn't Nanay anymore. She's one of them." It was then that Manuel realized the horrifying truth: this wasn't just a random attack. The aswang was targeting their family, and their mother had already fallen under its curse. Manuel's heart raced as he took a step toward their mother, his mind screaming at him to run, but before he could move, the aswang let out a terrifying screech that echoed through the streets, freezing him in place. Rosa grabbed his arm, her voice breaking. "Kuya, don't. We can't fight it." For a moment, Manuel didn't know what to do. His mother's face was twisted with something dark, unrecognizable, her mouth stretched into a grotesque grin. But then, something unexpected happened. The aswang suddenly faltered, its eyes flicking back to their mother. There was hesitation, something was wrong. Rosa, trembling, pulled out a small amulet their grandmother had given them, a talisman said to ward off evil. She whispered a prayer under her breath and held it out in front of them. To their shock, the creature recoiled, hissing as if the very sight of the amulet burned it. In that instant, their mother's body twitched, and for a brief moment, her eyes softened, as if she was fighting the creature's hold. "Run now," she whispered, before her face twisted again into the aswang's grotesque form, but it wasn't too late. As they turned to flee, the creature lunged, but in a flash of unimaginable speed, their mother grabbed it, dragging it back into the shadows. The last thing they heard was the monstrous screech of the aswang and then silence. The siblings escaped. But when they looked back, their mother was gone, replaced Eli only the lingering sound of distant whispers. The siblings ran until they could no longer hear the whispers or the screeching of the aswang. Their hearts still pounded in their chests, but the terror of that night was far from over. As they reached the safety of their home, they collapsed in exhaustion, barely able to comprehend what had just happened. Rosa's hands were shaking as she clutched the amulet, still glowing faintly with the remnants of its protective power. Manuel sat beside her, his mind racing. The realization hit him like a cold wave. His mother was gone, taken Yila, the very creature that had hunted them. She had fought to save them, sacrificing herself to give them chance to escape. But what did it mean? Had the Aswang chosen their family? Was it truly an act of revenge, or was there something deeper at play? They might never know. Days passed, but the horror of that night lingered, casting a long shadow over their lives. The village whispered of the Aswang, of the siblings' narrow escape, but none dared to venture into the night again. And though they were safe for now, Manuel and Rosa knew one thing for sure: evil had touched their family, and the darkness would always be lurking, waiting for its next chance. The night had ended, but the true horror, it seemed, was just beginning.